Ever since Death Stranding was announced, people, mostly YouTubers desperate for content after every trailer, have been trying to pin down exactly what Death Stranding is, usually in the form of a breathlessly long video overanalyzing everything in said trailer. Well, I'm going to tell you exactly what Death Stranding is, only using fewer words. So here is the most accurate description one can give you. Death Stranding is the combination of Oregon Trail and David Cage's Beyond Two Souls. Oregon Trail is a game where you set out to realize America's manifest destiny by connecting the two coasts, and along the way you manage inventory while traveling over rough terrain and avoiding dangers. Sound familiar? And Beyond Two Souls is the masturbatory fantasy of a game created by a developer no one wanted to say no to, featuring a star-studded cast set in a world where the worlds of the living and the dead have merged to the detriment of the living. That game's protagonist is even connected to her dead baby brother through a ghostly umbilical cord. It ends with a teaser for a sequel set in an apocalyptic world taken over by spirits. Considering Kojima visited Quantic Dream before he started work on Death Stranding, I think David might have slipped the unfinished script for the sequel into Kojima's pocket when he wasn't looking. No product placement for the glasses, Kojima? I was expecting you to tell us where we could buy a pair of those stupid-looking shades for ourselves. I find it hard to believe there would be many animals remaining in this world due to the timefall. This flock of crows get caught in the rain and they all age to death in seconds. But where exactly do they normally take cover from the rain? There isn't a single tree remaining. I get the feeling setting this game in America was an afterthought, because the terrain sure as hell looks nothing like any part of America. It's closer to Norway and Iceland than anything else. Also, the people in this game use the metric system. I don't care how far in the future this game is set, that is one thing that isn't changing about America. Timefall ages anything it touches. Porters like Sam wear a suit to keep them safe from it, but I would want a fully covered face since wind can easily throw rain in your face, especially when riding on a motorcycle. Plot important photographs are coated in a thin layer of olive oil. That explains why they always slip out of pockets in books when the plot wants to show them to you. There should be a dead deer right outside this cave, since the BT that appears scares it out into the timefall. But there is no dead deer from old age anywhere to be seen. How did Fragile get into the cave safely? Sam almost ran her over on the bike and she teleported away, leaving her umbrella on the hill in the rain. Yet she somehow retrieved the umbrella in the rain, then made her way to this cave while being rained on. And yeah, she can teleport, so that might explain how she appeared here. Except her teleports are always accompanied by a particular sound, and why would she teleport to a random cave instead of somewhere better, like a different game?
Tears. A chiral allergy. So, you have dooms, like me.
I've got the extinction factor.
I mentioned in another video that Kojima should make games he never plans to release just so he can continue to release enigmatic trailers, which seems to be what he loves the most about his job. This game feels like he came close to realizing that dream, since the entire plot is packed into the first and final acts of the game, and the gameplay feels second class to the cutscenes. Cutscenes that only serve to create trailers set to tasteful music, and acted out by expensive television actors in scenes that are about as digestible as mud sandwiched between two pieces of treated lumber. Kojima has always had a good ear for a game soundtrack, but this one feels like an excuse to share his Spotify playlist with everyone. Every time you approach something of significance in the game, a somber music track starts playing, and I guess you're supposed to take it all in while walking slowly. Maybe I did the first time and even the second, but by the third I was ripping across the terrain in a motorcycle and I just wanted to deliver my package of frozen semen and painkillers, and I didn't care about the obscure band Kojima was trying to point my attention to. Sam has aphanphosphobia, the fear of being touched, but I have to believe everyone else is suffering from anthropophobia, since even in not cities not a living soul can be found, and Sam only communicates with holograms of people somewhere else. He's never allowed into the cities or shelters. The game swears that there are people in there, but this lie is about as transparent as the one you tell to the pizza delivery boy every time you order 5 extra large pizzas for the party you are clearly throwing for all your friends and are definitely not going to eat them all by yourself and cry.
Luckily, our goods are in perfect condition. Well, you did keep us waiting, but...
Mama isn't in Central Knot City. She's in the Midwest somewhere. So why is her hologram the one accepting Sam's delivery? How does she even check the condition of the delivery if she can't open it? She isn't physically there.
How long since he flatlined?
We don't know the exact TOD, but I'd say it's been upwards of 40 hours.
He wasn't quarantined.
Not sick. This is just suicide.
Whenever a person dies, their body has to be burned lest it necrotize and become a BT, which could end up eating a living person and causing a void out. Unless you were constantly monitoring the vitals of everyone in the city so authorities could be alerted the second someone expires, living in a city would be impossible, since people die quietly and alone all the time, usually from eating too much pizza by themselves. Hold on, someone's at the door. Also, it's later revealed that the Death Stranding is the 6th extinction event to take place on Earth, meaning 5 other Death Strandings occurred before this one, which means animals should necrotize and become BTs as well, since they would have in the past Death Strandings, but that doesn't seem to be the case here.
And just burn the poor bastard right here.
You put all that chiralium in the air so close to town? Can't do it.
You can't burn a body close to town since it puts chiralium in the air. I don't believe the game ever clarifies why that is such a bad thing, but it can be worse than risking the body turning into a BT and destroying the entire city.
And I can't spot BTs. Just sense them.
That's why we came prepared.
A bridge baby, huh?
If you have the bridge baby that allows you to see BTs, then you don't need Sam who can only sense them.
Well, the world was different when I was a kid. America is a country. Anybody could go anywhere they damn well pleased. No need for couriers like yourself. We had highways, airplanes. Hell, you could even visit other countries.
I don't think you need to tell all this as someone who clearly isn't all that young himself and lives this reality every day of his life.
Sam, did you see anything?
Why are you asking Sam? You're the one with a bridge baby. With that open hood, Sam is really lucky he doesn't land on his back in the rain every time he's in a crash. This scene where the corpse disposal goes wrong is awesome. I just wish it wasn't the only great moment we get for the next 30 hours of playtime. I have to assume Igor knows that bullets don't affect BTs and the only reason he brought the gun was to make sure the BTs didn't eat anyone still alive, yet he still shoots at them. Also, Sam doesn't grab the gun and kill Igor to stop a void out from happening and destroying Central Knot. Sam is a repatriate, meaning he can return to the living after dying. However, the void out should have killed BB as well since Sam was holding it, but that always comes back with him. This game has a tendency to start a new scene with Sam awakening in a bed with no transition to how he got there. It's always hand-waved away that someone found him and brought him back, which I could believe if I ever saw any of these people outside of a shelter or a city.
I'm a doctor. Well, a coroner, originally.
Must be difficult being a coroner in a world where the dead have to be immediately burned.
So I'm a prisoner.
These aren't handcuffs. They're cutting-edge devices that keep us all connected.
Kojima is making a statement. Our phones are essentially handcuffs, or something like that. There's a fine line between something stupid and something profound, and Kojima weaves across it from minute to minute.
Central Knot was obliterated in the Annihilation. Game over, man. Place is a crater. The only ones to get to continue were you, for obvious reasons.
Video game terminology has an odd new standing in this post-apocalyptic timeline.
I see. Aphanphosmphobia.
Phobias are irrational fears. Is it really irrational if a touch leaves a permanent bruise on his body?
And there's only so much they can do in 2 days.
I can't pay attention to all this exposition when the game clearly wants me to focus on the monster product placement.
I have a job for you.
How was Sam being paid for these jobs? Since the US is gone, there doesn't seem to be any currency. The only thing he ever receives is likes, which can't be exchanged for anything.
I need you to bring the president some morphine.
What president? America's gone.
Sam is the son of the President of the United States who also started and directed Bridges, and didn't suspect that it might be his mother who wanted to see him.
Because I'm not really here.
Since Deadman is somewhere else and this is a hologram, how does he open that morphine case?
The truth, Sam, is that America's last president wants to see you in person.
Why go through this ruse in the first place? They brought Sam into the city. Why dump him a few blocks away when they could have just brought him to the isolation ward?
I'm afraid the president's condition has deteriorated.
Over the course of a few minutes, the president must have that same aggressive cancer that killed Naomi in Metal Gear Solid 4.
That's the president's right-hand man, the director of bridges.
Die Hardman?
Yeah, it's easy to laugh at a character wearing a mask who goes by the name Die Hardman, but we're dealing with the same man who created a character named Hot Coldman in Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker.
You can make America whole. Sam, if we don't all come together again, humanity will not survive.
Kojima is making a statement on America, social media, and the culture wars. Meanwhile, my eyes are rolling in my head so fast my PC case fans are jealous.
We don't need a country. Not anymore.
We do. Alone, we have no future.
No, America's finished.
I like Norman Reedus, mainly because he always looks like he'd prefer to be sleeping, but his performance in this game has the same exact feel as Kiefer Sutherland in Metal Gear Solid 5. At times he speaks his lines with all the enthusiasm of an IGN video reviewer. There goes that family photo falling out again. Just how long was Bridget the president? She was originally the vice president until the president was killed in the very first void out in Manhattan. The Death Stranding seems to have been going on for decades now.
Listen, no one can know that the president is dead. If word gets out, Bridges is finished.
If it's a legitimate concern that your country will fall apart because the leader dies, you are not building a country, you're building a cult.
You think you can recruit me? Like she tried to?
Well, she succeeded. Look at your wrist. If that's not symbolic, I don't know what is.
That's not how a contract works. Both parties have to agree.
Who's gonna take her place? Face it. America's history.
Sam, America isn't dead yet.
He just said that it dies if Bridget dies.
She may be lost to us, but we still have an America worthy of the presidency.
This game is vastly simplifying the US's method of governing. As far as I can tell, there is no legislature and no judiciary. The government derives power from the consent of the people to be governed. Bridget may have held on to the title of president, but Sam is right.
It was hooked up to you when we found you in the crater.
But why is it here?
Because it's flagged for disposal.
If this is how babies are used and treated, then I don't see how they are ever going to convince a certain group of Americans to sign up. You think the Odradek has ever poked Sam in the eye?
I'm not your errand boy.
That's exactly what you are, though. Putting in text introductions that Lindsay Wagner voices both Bridget and Amelie kind of raises an eyebrow, doesn't it? There's a lot to break down when it comes to Bridget and Amelie, but the one thing I want to hit upon first is that Sam is Bridget's son, and Amelie is her daughter. Yet Sam has known Amelie his whole life, and she has always looked like this. He has also never met Amelie anywhere by the beach, and never once saw Bridget and Amelie together. He's never once found any of that strange.
Someone has to carry on her legacy and see our country rebuilt. Samantha America Strand, our new president.
If your idea for rebuilding America begins with hiding the death of the president and installing your unelected daughter as the new president, then I would turn down that offer without a second thought.
All the way to the Pacific. Jesus.
Yeah, but then everything went to hell. The team was wiped out, and Amelie was taken.
So you chose to make Amelie the new president even though she is currently being held hostage by terrorists who want no part of the UCA. I see no problem with that.
I'm not being kept in a cell or anything like that. I'm allowed to use their facilities and to speak with you whenever I want. I just can't leave the city.
Edgenot City is holding Amelie captive. Why let her communicate with the UCA when they know that would be working against their desire to remain independent? Wouldn't they at least be listening in on this?
Sam, we want you to go west and finish what Amelie started. The people she left behind have been hard at work, setting up chiral network terminals. But these terminals are still isolated. We need you to bring them online. And for that, you'll need a Cupid.
So Amelie went to all the trouble of traveling west, setting up way stations and chiral terminals, but didn't bring the key that activates them with her. Even if the Cupid wasn't ready, why not just hold off going until it was?
Take the Cupid west, Sam, and reconnect the people of our great nation. And when you get to Edgenot City, find Amelie and bring her home.
I can understand sending a professional porter west, but how do you expect Sam to infiltrate a city run by militant terrorists and get her out? That one is more of a job for Snake. When your only objective in the game is to walk from one location to the next, I can only help but notice the travel time. If it only takes Sam a few minutes of walking to reach the first location, then Heartman and Bridget have been sitting on their hands for some time instead of activating the terminals relatively close to them. They should have been sending out porters with Cupids for some time now. Mules are essentially Tuscan raiders. They carry poles, make trumpet sounds, and will try to rob you whenever you pass by one of their camps. According to Kojima, they became like this after developing an addiction to social media likes for a job well done delivering packages. So to get that high again, they steal packages from porters, hoard them in their camp, and never deliver them. Yeah, it doesn't make much sense to me either. But Mules and BTs are your only enemies in this game, which isn't saying much since both are easily dealt with or avoided. BTs, on the other hand, are the spirits of the dead that linger in our world and try to consume the living. They mostly stand around in the rain until you walk right up to one, at which point they will drag you a few feet away and spawn a Targos to fight you. It is easily escaped. Even if it does kill you, Sam will repatriate and come back with all of his packages. You can't really fail. This game is so easy, the only difficulty is finding enough time to sit down and play it. What else should I mention about this game's empty second act? I suppose it wouldn't be a Kojima game without piss. You can whip out Norman Reedus' Meatus and hose down the plants anytime you like. It doesn't really do anything but leave a mushroom other players can see. And if enough players pee in the same spot, it creates a colony of mushrooms which attract cryptobiotes which you can eat and get blood back. Not that you will ever need to.
London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down.
Maybe Amelie sang this song to Sam as he was growing up, but most people would refrain from singing nursery rhymes to grown adults to wake them up.
Still not under guard. Still not chained up. Still can't leave.
If Amelie is not under guard and not imprisoned, what is stopping her from making an escape attempt? This logic is so absurd I'm surprised anyone buys it.
I'll be taking a sample of your shower water in order to study the effects your bodily fluids might have on a BT.
You might try selling that bottled Norman Reedus bathwater instead of throwing it at ghosts. How is Heartman doing research on Sam's bodily fluids? He lives in the Rocky Mountains, and none of the samples are being delivered to him. He's on the other side of the country and not connected to the chiral network. Heartman told Sam their current terminal communication was limited to small amounts of data like voice communication.
AI did everything. Deliveries were handled by unmanned vehicles and drones. All we had to do was sit back and let them work. It was revolutionary, damn near singularity. No reason for it not to take off, but it didn't. People didn't like it when we took the human element out of the service industry. So, after some consideration, we put it back in.
According to Heartman, people got so depressed they didn't get to meet and talk with their FedEx delivery man that drones and AI usage was ceased.
Where'd you get that? That little guy? Same as mine. Where the hell did you get it?
Yeah, I can't really say. But the little guy, he came with the pod, if you gotta know.
And who'd you get the pod from?
Igor, from Corpse Disposal.
Every time Sam hooks himself up to BB, he sees visions of the past that are presumably BB's. In one of them, Clifford ties a spaceman figure to BB's container. The BB Sam received from Igor has the same spaceman tied to it, which would be one hell of a coincidence on its own. But in fact is even more unbelievable once you learn that the BB in Sam's visions is not the BB he is carrying around. Meaning it just so happens that Clifford tied the same figurine to a BB that is tied to the BB Sam has. This is all an attempt to make you believe Clifford is looking after the same BB Sam is, and he's experiencing BB's memories. But like all ruses, once you know the truth, the tower of cards collapses if it wasn't properly stacked.
The name's Higgs. The particle of God, that.
Kojima, didn't you already do the creepy skull face villain one game ago?
Ah, so it was you that dragged him into all this.
Fragile didn't drag him into this. That was all Bridget and Amelie's doing.
What's that? Bridget Strand is dead. America's last president dead and burned. Oh, and now the girl's been chosen to take Mommy's place.
How do you smell someone and learn such specific info? I've heard of condensing fact from the vapor of nuance, but not literally doing it. Higgs embodies the teleportation is always used to be a dick cliché.
Oh, but don't worry. I'll find her. And I'll keep her real safe.
Higgs doesn't have Amelie, which flies in the face of what Sam was told earlier about Amelie being held by the Homo demons. Heartman even displayed a hologram image of Higgs when discussing it. Higgs's doom level is so high he can summon and control BTs. The guy who committed suicide in Central Nod and was turned into a BT was speculated to be one of Higgs' Homo demons who did it on the purpose of destroying the city. If Higgs can summon a BT like this in the middle of a city, why bother with a suicide plan?
Aren't you getting tired of the grind? Isn't this what you've been waiting for this whole time? A game over.
Higgs is asking Sam this, but he might as well be asking the player.
You saw that asshole too, right?
Higgs, he's the leader of a separatist group.
Despite all this talk about separatists attacking cities and even using nukes, Sam never encounters any of them except Higgs. Can you zip up the pocket you are carrying that photo around in?
The cave, Port Knot City, next to your bed. So far apart, yet somehow we keep meeting?
What Fragile defines as fate can also be described with intentional stalking. Since Fragile can teleport, why does she need to cross the crater lake on a boat with Sam? The next chapter of the game has Sam attempting to extend the chiral network through the use of prepper shelters. It's awfully convenient that Sam only has to interact with one person at a time that represents the entire current settlement, and all their problems can be solved by one-day delivery. And if the preppers never had any intention to join the UCA, why did they allow chiral terminals and printers to be installed inside their shelters that they couldn't use without being connected to the UCA's chiral network? Fragile steps out of the shower fully clothed, even though you could tell through the frosted glass that she didn't have her outfit inside the shower with her, since that would be stupid.
What does America mean to you? Way my dad made it sound, we were something special.
If you grew up in the US, even this fractured post-apocalypse version, why do you have a French accent?
We could bring it all back if we kept on making deliveries and connecting people. He was sure of it.
Was your dad Kevin Costner by any chance?
Somehow they got a hold of our security passes and used them to sneak into cities. And just like that, we're delivering guns and bombs instead of medicine, and I didn't even know.
The thing about that, all of the cities and shelters Sam has been to have a perimeter field that shuts down any detected weapons, even non-lethal ones. This prepper forces Sam to watch really long hologram videos of his girlfriend hopping around with an hourglass like she's developmentally challenged.
When the terrorists attacked, my mother and I barely escaped with our lives.
Turns out his girlfriend is still alive. However, her accent is clearly not that of a native-born American. No one in this world travels anymore due to all the infrastructure being destroyed by voidouts and timefall. So how did someone too young to have been alive when the Death Stranding began end up with such an accent when she was raised in America? Instead of carrying her on Sam's back to the junk collector to prove that she is still alive, can't she just walk on her own? Just add some legs to that timefall protective suit and she would be fine.
I kept it close. Always. But after the attack, it stopped working. I thought about fixing it.
How can a clearly intact hourglass stop working?
Oh, hi, Sam, Bridges, I presume. Sorry about that. The system seems to be on the fritz.
Since Higgs runs a terrorist organization, maybe he could have had one of them disguise themselves as a tech to give Sam the package. That would decrease the likelihood of him being recognized.
It says here the client is Fragile herself.
If Higgs wanted Sam to deliver the bomb to South Knot, why tell him it was for Fragile? Higgs wouldn't even know where Fragile is right now, and she's going to remember the last time he snuck bombs into a city in a delivery. I know these cutscenes can be exhausting, but Sam doesn't need to fall asleep before every one of them.
Sam, what's wrong?
Fragile asks what's wrong even though she teleported into the room after Sam was startled awake by his dream. Also, Heartman said Fragile was having trouble teleporting due to the increasing chiral density. That's why Sam had to meet her at the way station. Higgs set the nuke on a timer, somehow accurately guessing the amount of time Sam would need to reach Fragile.
Take it down to the crater next to South Knot. It's a tar pit. Damn near bottomless. If we chuck it in there, we just might have a chance.
The tar pit is right next to South Knot City. You are in the middle of nowhere with a very low-yield nuclear bomb. Why not just leave it in the wasteland where no one lives? Weird how Higgs never makes use of these separatist soldiers ever again.
However, if you want to see this altruistic streak of yours through, then you'll have to carry my nuke to the bottomless pit and toss it in. Oh, sure, you'll be the city's savior. But you will have to walk naked through timefall to do it.
Higgs wanted to blow up South Knot with a nuke. Why change that plan just to screw over Fragile? Being forced to run through the timefall ended up being a way better reason to stick a woman in her underwear than having her breathe through her skin. Fragile gets around really well these days for someone whose body was aged into its 70s by timefall.
I'm gonna make Higgs regret he ever crossed me.
By killing him?
Can't. He's way more powerful now than he was before. But you could take him.
Based on what? Sam is only a level 2 Doom with the ability to repatriate after death. How convenient that the game finally supplies Sam with real weapons right before a chiral storm appears and whisks him off to World War I, especially when it goes against the narrative the game has established that killing anyone would just create more BTs. These war levels would be better served if Sam was forced to use time period weapons. Instead, he uses the same 3D printed weapons he can somehow find lying around the battlefield. All of the battlefield moments end up being a brief walk down a path while the ghosts of dead soldiers fight an endless battle. Then Sam has to face off against Clifford in a fight. Essentially, these moments are no different than fighting the Skull unit in Metal Gear Solid 5. Mama lives right next to South Knot City. She also designed the Cupid Sam uses and even developed a new one to fix the faulty limiter in his. Even though she can't leave this building due to her BT baby having died here. She could have sent a Bridges member from the fulfillment center to connect this entire region already instead of leaving it to Sam.
She was due. I was in the hospital waiting for a C-section. Then the terrorists hit us.
From the looks of the building Mama lives in and can't leave, it seems like she had her C-section performed in a parking garage. Shouldn't that rain have caused Mama to age? Also, South Knot was partially destroyed by a nuke, meaning there should have been radioactive fallout, which should have killed Mama and rendered South Knot uninhabitable. Rescuers found Mama several days after the attack after hearing her dead baby crying, meaning they could have heard Mama screaming earlier if she had bothered.
Higgs and his people came. They finally reached Edge Knot City. There's no escape for me now. Everyone's dead, the city's destroyed, and what's left is crawling with BTs.
I was under the impression Higgs and his people were the ones who destroyed the first expedition Amelie led, and forced her to stay in Edge Knot. Also, Higgs' people continue to be mentioned, but they are never encountered.
If nothing is done, the whole city might be swallowed by a sea of tar in the near future.
So their plan is to detonate an antimatter bomb in the middle of Mountain Knot City to clear out the tar bubbling up from the ground?
The hell do you think you're doing, Bridges? That network you're building is carrying some nasty stuff. Stuff nobody would want anywhere near them.
Heartman should start warning Sam that he's making deliveries to people that hate the organization he represents, and that Lochna is Mama's estranged sister. Letting him find these things out on his own speaks badly of Bridges. It makes the organization look like it's run by a writer seeking dramatic reveals.
And they're weapons too now.
That's right. Cord cutters.
It would be a whole lot simpler to design a knife that cuts a BT's umbilical cord than implementing it into the cuffs, since the sharp edge is always pressed against Sam's wrist, and he falls down a lot.
My ovaries can't produce eggs, and Lochna has trouble with her uterus. Long story short, neither of us can have children.
Mama's baby was actually Lochna's, with Mama only carrying it to term since Lochna couldn't. But after the attack on South Knot, Lochna assumed Mama took the baby and cut off contact with her. And for some reason, Mama couldn't contact her electronically to tell her that her baby had died. She's only been in contact with Sam despite the distance between them, and I would assume they kept in remote contact with each other during the pregnancy, so this misunderstanding should have been cleared up long before now. Mama is capable of walking. Sam shouldn't have to carry her across a mountain range to meet her sister. According to Lochna, Mama died back when she was pinned under the rubble, but the circumstances of her death and her baby separated her ha and ka, and she only wore one cuff to avoid anyone seeing her non-existent vitals. But the rescuers who pulled her from the rubble that day would have certainly checked her vitals and given her medical treatment, and they would have noticed that they were looking at a dead body that was walking around like it was alive. Since Mama dies right after Sam delivers her, shouldn't that mean he gets a poor rating on his delivery performance? I still got an S rank despite delivering broken goods.
I thought she'd severed our bond on purpose, that she stole our child and ran.
Did you ever think the big explosion that happened in South Knot on the same day Mama was due to have a C-section might have had something to do with it?
Ooh, looking for this? Surprise! Fragile warped me here.
Why not wake Sam up when you first arrived to take BB and let him know what was going on instead of letting him panic? This also means Fragile warped Deadman here to Mountain Knot City to get BB, then back to Central Knot, then back to Mountain Knot just to explain it when it could have been done with fewer trips.
We reset it. You'll have to leave it with me, of course. I'll cut the cord that links the two of you and then perform an operation that reconnects it to the other side. I'm telling you, it's like a game. Just select retry and start again.
If we're going to use video game terminology for this, let's at least use accurate terminology. I would describe it as getting rid of your humanity in Dark Souls. It's a good thing Kojima's games feature so much urinating, because taking the piss out of them is the main draw for me.
No one can spy on us in here.
Yeah, but I think they might question why both Deadman and Sam are getting into the shower fully clothed together.
I need you to link up a few preppers in the area so we can increase local chiral density. That's to bolster the connection between BP-28 and its still mother.
As if the game isn't long enough, Sam has to trek around the mountains convincing more preppers to join the UCA and the chiral network to get BB back to normal. Just like last time, if these preppers already had chiral terminals and printers installed in their shelters, they should have already agreed to being part of the UCA, but some of them still need convincing. The doctor prepper gives Sam a new flask that replenishes itself with Monster. I would not trust this man's medical advice.
I would estimate the paintings to be in the region of 30,000 years old, if not older. The artists were likely Neanderthals or other precursors.
Neanderthals and other precursor species of humans never crossed the Bering Land Bridge to North America.
I left my facility to perform some additional tests on the BP in the field, and now I find myself unable to return.
There is no way Deadman waddled his way up a mountain wearing nothing but his suit while carrying BB. And what kind of test would he be doing in a cabin in the middle of nowhere? Rather than use my tried and true repeated boss fight sin, I'd rather point out how a game focusing on hiking, package delivery, and inventory management doesn't really need boss fights. Combat is so de-emphasized in Death Stranding that you don't get a weapon until around hour 12. So when the game stops you from doing what it has trained you to do so you can have a shootout with Mads Mikkelsen, it feels about as enjoyable as you can imagine. It would have been better served having Sam square off against a territorial mountain goat trying to headbutt him off a cliff.
A death, sudden, in the middle of a town. Young woman in the prime of her life. Nobody knew until it was too late. A void out. Her husband, who was a member of Bridges, had dooms.
This is a terrible way to tell someone their own tragic history that they are painfully aware of.
The truth is, I'm Frankenstein's monster. Artificial. Grown from pluripotent stem cells. And when that vital spark didn't manifest in all my organs, they replaced the defective ones with those of the dead.
There has to be a reason why someone would go to all the trouble of creating a human through that method, but Deadman never explains why he was created in such a way. Normally, the dead are incinerated as soon as possible to keep it from becoming a BT. With Mama's body, they did nothing with it for days for seemingly no reason, and only lucked out that her body doesn't turn into a BT. That's the same hourglass that the chiral artist lady made for her boyfriend. It was supposed to be one of a kind.
While you've traveled to and from the seam an impressive number of times, my beach count is a little higher. 218,549.
So Heartman is your average Dark Souls player.
I see myself in that crater. My wife and my child. It's like looking at the shape of my heart.
Kojima's strategy is to find a theme, name a character after the theme, have them talk about the theme, shove the theme down your throat in case you missed it, then sit back and look smug like he did something impressive. His name is Heartman. He lives next to a lake that looks like a heart. His heart is mutated into a heart shape. He dies of cardiac arrest every 21 minutes and then comes back. And even where the ghost touched him, it left a heart-shaped stain on his shirt. Even Kingdom Hearts showed more subtlety than this with the same theme. Heartman spends 21 minutes in the living world and 3 minutes on the beach. He just came back from the beach when Sam arrived with Mama's corpse. In no way did 21 minutes go by since his last trip to the beach. Kojima didn't count the minutes until Heartman died again. But damn if he doesn't make you sit there and do nothing for the full 3 minutes while Heartman is dead.
I keep busy. I have a collection of music, television shows, some very interesting short films, and stories. Everything consumable within a 21-minute window.
Well, you won't find any of Kojima's games in Heartman's collection. Those have cutscenes that last longer than that.
Of researching the deaths.
Again, Heartman is supposed to spend 21 minutes alive in this world and 3 minutes dead on the beach. It has been only 9 minutes since he last went to the beach. Why give a character a quirk like this if you are not going to follow it? In yet another padding section of the game, Sam has to travel to remote scientists living in shelters and bring them into the chiral network so they can gain an understanding of past extinction events.
For this run, you'll be transporting an antimatter bomb. Bridget's paleontologist working on a dig says he needs it.
Then why not use C4 explosives or something far more safe than antimatter? Also, no paleontologist goes digging for fossils with explosives for the obvious reasons.
A frozen mammoth from 10,000 years ago.
Correct. And this?
The Iceman from 5,300 years ago.
According to Heartman, any living being with a strand is known as an extinction entity, the thing that can start a Death Stranding event, and with the umbilical cord Deadman provided, they know Bridget was one such person. Heartman also has a photo collection of animals with strands that were extinction entities from previous Death Strandings. An EE would be extremely rare. Only 6 of them at this point, but somehow every one of their bodies was uncovered, perfectly preserved with their strand visible. Also, one of them was a Neanderthal. There was no worldwide extinction event during the time of the Neanderthal except for their own species. Homo sapiens, who were around at the same time, thrived as Neanderthals disappeared. And considering how bad off humans are during this Death Stranding, it's unlikely the Neanderthals died due to a Death Stranding. Not once has Heartman's 21-minute cycle been upheld in this game.
She's in there. I can smell her. Of course, I wouldn't have known for sure if it wasn't for you and your wonderful network.
Higgs is wearing Amelie's necklace right now, so why act like he doesn't already have her? Since Edgenot City wanted no part of the UCA and even blew up other cities to thwart them, why did they leave a functioning Bridges distribution center and chiral terminal both right outside of the city and inside of it?
The network's nearly complete. Just one more knot to go. And then America will be whole again.
Why is Edgenot City so important to the chiral network now? Everyone in it is dead. There is no one left to connect.
I've kept things from you. Worn a mask for the longest time. Everything Higgs said about me is true.
How exactly do you know what Higgs said about you being an EE? Sam didn't bring it up.
Everything I needed, Sam. A complete chiral network. Spread all across America. Connecting all them precious little knots.
You needed Sam to do that? Then why did you try to kill him on 3 different occasions, tried to blow up South Knot City, which would have stopped the creation of the network, and destroyed Central Knot with a void out? All of these actions would have stopped the chiral network from being completed. Without having his hood up, Sam lunges at Higgs, who is standing in the timefall, but Sam's face doesn't age despite the rain. For all of Higgs' knowledge of gaming terminology, he should really know better than to make himself the weak point in a giant boss. You can take Kojima away from Metal Gear, but it seems you can't take the Metal Gear boss fight out of Kojima. Wouldn't this be bad for Higgs if he won? The BT would eat Sam and cause a void out, killing Higgs and Amelie. Meanwhile, Sam would just repatriate. What is Higgs even trying to accomplish by fighting Sam here? He knows very well that he can't kill Sam in this world. Despite Sam's Odradek taking most of the bullets, it still continues to work just fine afterwards. That was a lot easier than all the BTs you sicked on him.
For going in like that?
Yeah, I don't need a weapon. I'm not gonna take Lou either.
You know you're going up against Higgs, who does have a weapon, and that if you die on the beach, you can't repatriate.
No matter what you, me, or anybody else does, humanity has a few 100,000 years left, tops.
Hundreds of thousands of years is far longer than current recorded history. Why end it right now if you believe that?
No BTs, no void outs, no bullshit. Just a good old-fashioned boss fight. One last
Game over.
Death Stranding has to keep reminding you that you are in fact playing a video game just in case you forgot with all the cutscenes it's forcing you to watch.
Honey, you ain't nothing but damaged goods.
You are damaged goods.
That's how you perform a proper comeback. Pretend you're 5.
What took you so long?
Why do you think? He had to cross the country on foot, just like you begged him to.
I brought you a metaphor.
What a coincidence. I paid $60 for one.
Your little one managed to bring it here by picturing it as equipment.
And why couldn't you have done that with a nuke you were forced to carry through Timefall, or the nuke Sam had to dispose of? Also, did picturing BB as equipment repair the bullet holes Higgs put in its pod?
There's something that you need to know, Sam. When you were back east, I slipped out of here and I went to visit you.
What? You lied?
As it turns out, Amelie was never actually held hostage in Edge Knot City. She chose to stay there and could have left at any time, but her being there was Die Hardman's plan to convince Sam to go west looking for her. However, that only became the plan after Bridget failed to convince Sam to do it for America. And Amelie had been in Edge Knot City for over a year at that point. Did she really wait around just in case this plan was needed?
So I'm Mario and you're Princess Peach.
This is only the second most painful Mario reference in the game. The first is all those toadstools Sam has been pissing out.
Run.
Yeah. Like Mario and Princess Peach.
Mario and Princess Peach are not known for racing along a beach, unless this is some weird Mario Kart metaphor. It seems Kojima was running low on ideas for Death Stranding in the final act, and had to reach into his bag of Metal Gear Solid storylines. That's how we end up with a born and bred soldier like Clifford being forced to take part in a weird scientific experiment involving his child, and the president was behind it all along. And there's a man wearing a skull face with a hidden past. You know? Maybe those Death Stranding is Metal Gear conspiracy theorists had a point.
Give me back my BB.
You're looking in the wrong place.
How does a story spend so much time meticulously explaining everything, but still leave you scratching your head?
Whoa, Sam, it's me. Sorry, didn't mean to startle you.
I don't believe you. You wouldn't hold Higgs's mask out like that for any other reason but to startle Sam. It's no wonder the guy has trust issues. Every single time he falls asleep, people start messing with him.
Oh. Delivering so many people in such a short amount of time is new.
Fragile transported every member of the team but Sam back to Capital Knot, and now she's too worn down by constant use of her doom to transport him, the most important person among them, so he has to hoof it all the way back across America on foot. Deadman eating Fragile's last crypto bio turns out to be a pretty dick move. This makes the third Clifford Unger fight, and outside of the setting, there is no difference in any of them.
They told me your name was Sam Porter. But you were Sam Bridges.
Clifford clearly knows the truth now about BB and Sam, but doesn't bother to mention it. Considering the fate of his child is the one thing he is obsessed over, it's a bit odd.
I never met Amelie in person. Have you? Ever seen her in the flesh, shook her hand, touched her?
Bullshit. She's real. We've touched, all right? She and I both.
Well, I've only ever interacted with her hologram.
I'm telling you, I've met her. In person. Lots of times when I was little.
Yes, but on the beach.
Amelie only exists on the beach according to Die Hardman, except she was clearly in the living world when Higgs attacked Sam in Edge Knot, and it was stated that the only reason the first expedition managed to reach Edge Knot was because Amelie led them around BTs, and she would have been present during the planning and launch of the expedition from Central Knot. Otherwise, why would anyone believe she was with it?
I swore an oath to the president and to America. As far as I was concerned, her word was law.
I don't think Die Hardman understands this whole America thing very well. The president has no power to create laws. That power lies solely with Congress. The president only authorizes those laws and enforces them.
Bridget was diagnosed with uterine cancer in her 20s and couldn't have children.
Since Die Hardman left this recording behind as a tell-all in case he didn't come back from the beach, he might have bothered revealing the truth about Sam and the fact that he is not Bridget's biological son either. Actually, he shouldn't even have to. Since Sam was supposed to be Bridget's second child, he should have already figured out that he couldn't possibly be Bridget's child if Amelie isn't.
I had a little chat with Higgs back on the beach. He said it was part of her plan.
What?
She was their leader. The terrorist void-outs, the whole Extinction agenda, Amelie was behind it all.
And you just let Sam walk off with Amelie without bothering to mention any of that? It also makes no sense that Amelie was the one who made Higgs start his terrorist campaign, which hampered the completion of the chiral network, which is the one thing she needed to bring about the last Stranding.
Fragile's condition is deteriorating. If she slips into a coma, there's a chance her soul might become stranded on the beach. She needs cryptobiotes fast.
Cryptobiotes are incredibly easy to get your hands on. There are nests of them right outside of Capital Knot. I had hundreds of them by this point in the game, yet you have to deliver a package of them to Fragile. On the final leg of the journey back to Capital Knot, the game throws every BT boss at you in a boss rush. After this game and Metal Gear Solid 5, Kojima has clearly given up on memorable boss fights. Kojima packaged a 1 hour and 40-minute movie onto the end of his video game, topping even his 90-minute movie at the end of Metal Gear Solid 4.
Imagine it as a circulatory system, if you will. Each of our beaches is a single capillary, but Amelie's beach is the heart that pumps blood to the rest of us.
Of course, Heartman would use a heart as a way of explaining Amelie's beach in relation to everyone else's. The Red Sea of Amelie's beach is ripped straight from the end of Evangelion, and here I was thinking Zone of the Enders was Kojima's best attempt at ripping off that anime.
You were supposed to stop me.
That's not the impression I've gotten. You set him on the journey of connecting the chiral network across the country. You weren't exactly playing Hannibal Lecter mind games where you said one thing and meant another.
The last stranding has already begun. A seam has formed from my beach and the beaches of every soul in America. And soon it will be inundated by a vast surge of antimatter starting here.
I have to ask, why is America so goddamn important? If you were trying to bring about the end of all life, wouldn't you have to connect the entire world to the chiral network? Not just the East and West Coast?
I'm ready, Sam Strand. Make your choice.
I think the only scene Kojima loves more than people pissing themselves is when he gives you the choice to mercy kill a blonde lady. I don't know what I accomplished, but the game assures me I accomplished something.
The two of us managed to coexist. Soon, our ages began to diverge. Bridget's body got older, while the beach kept Amelie's the same. So I came up with a story. I told people that Amelie was my daughter. A daughter with a debilitating condition and an absent father.
Bridget and Amelie are the two halves of the Extinction entity, separated somehow during a surgery to remove uterine cancer. Since Amelie only existed on the beach, why did Bridget feel the need to make up a story that Amelie was her daughter, especially after she had just had surgery that removed her uterus? That's like telling your friends you've been recruited for the NFL after having your leg surgically removed. Not only would people question it due to her surgery, they would ask why a 20-year-old woman had a daughter who looked the same age as her mother, and about why Bridget never looked pregnant. And since Bridget later became vice president, people would have realized there was no way she could have had a daughter, and then people would be asking to see the supposed daughter that didn't exist in our world.
From the ashes of the dead rise the living, stronger and wiser, inheritors of the legacy of existence itself. They defy the universe and refuse to surrender. They say, we're just getting started.
I think this is Kojima talking about himself and Konami more than life and extinction.
A gun won't help you here, but it still has a role to play.
Amelie's last bit of advice nearly caused Sam to kill himself, maybe given the details of what you mean instead of flaunting your universe brain.
Today we come together to celebrate the birth of a new nation.
Heartman introducing himself to the country as the new president while wearing that mask would be like sitting in a dentist's chair while Dr. Predator asks if you've been brushing every day.
New nation for a new world. The United Cities of America.
I give you America 3.
You know why they call me Heartman.
Because it's a reference to Die Hard. Your real name is even John. It was not that difficult to figure that one out.
I loved him as much as I loved her.
Heartman knows exactly who Clifford's BB was, but doesn't mention that little fact here as he pours his heart out over his guilt for killing Clifford.
And he forgave me. God. But I don't deserve it, god damn it!
Hot damn, that is one good performance.
You could try taking Lou out of the pod just to see what happens. But that would be in direct contravention of an executive order. And there are laws about that kind of thing, now that we're a nation.
How is that already a law? Heartman just became president. How are laws even created without a Congress and executive signing?
We cannot release your son just yet. Believe me when I tell you it's for the best.
This is some woman in a mask who's done nothing but lie to me.
Why would you ever trust the president if she wears that mask in private? Also, why was Bridget wearing the Heartman mask back then?
Take BB and get out of this place.
Everyone in this memory referring to the baby as BB is the game's way of hiding the fact that it isn't Sam's BB like the game wants you to believe. Clifford more than likely would have been using his son's name.
I can't terminate your wife's life support from inside her room. System won't allow it. So, this is the only other option.
Or, you could unhook her from it. Heartman may have helped Clifford get BB out of the room, but he didn't bother helping Clifford with all the locked doors in the facility.
Oh my god.
When did Clifford have time to remove BB from the pod? He was lying on the floor with it just a second ago after being shot multiple times. Then they take BB from him and now it's cradled in his arms.
I need you to hand it over.
Shoot him, John.
He's nearly dead. You could take the BB from him pretty easily. It's not like he's gonna hurt his own child.
You told me your name was Sam Porter. But you're Sam Bridges. My son.
Why did you always call your son BB then instead of SB if you were going to go by his initials? Should I even ask? But where did Lou pull that necklace from? Sam just took it out of the pod and revived it. I'm not sure how Sam knew it was safe to walk in the rain now, but it was one hell of a risk if he didn't.
Louise.
BB's gender was hidden from the player until the very end, but Sam would have known BB was a girl the entire time, since it wouldn't be hidden from him by discrete camera angles, yet he called her Lou after his dead unborn son until now.
Kojima is good! Kojima is good! Kojima is good! Everybody say, Kojima is good! Kojima is good!